we are in uncharted territory of economic, political, and virtually every other kind of difficulty or crisis. Let's be real honest with ourselves. This is the worst economic collapse since about March of 2020, the year before this one, since the Great Depression. That's the only thing that's been worse. And we're not through this one yet. So I can't even be sure that what I'm saying now will be true 6 or 12 months from now. And I'll come back to that. But at the same time, and this we've never had before in American history, at the same time that we have one of our worst economic downturns, we have the second worst collapse or calamity of our public health system in our history. I mean, the only comparable thing I know of is the so-called Spanish flu that happened right after World War I, literally a century ago. We've had public health problems, and we certainly had economic crises before, but a big monster of each kind at the same time, no. And the first thing that people have to recognize is the enormity of what we have just gone through. Let me give you a second way to get a hold of it. The economics profession basically agrees that the size of the labor force here in the United States is roughly 160 million people. What that means is roughly half of our citizens are out there either working or looking for a job. They are what we call our labor force. And the rest of us are children, the elderly that have retired, people that are in one or another institution, and so on. So if you use the rough number, 160 million, then ponder this. Over the last 16 months or so, in excess of 80 million American workers had to file unemployment compensation claims. Some of them were only unemployed a few weeks. Some of them were unemployed the entire 16 months and everything in between. What that means, and this is a sentence I really ask everyone to take to heart, more than 1 out of 2 Americans lost their job over the last 16 months. If you know what happens when you lose your job, here's what is the overwhelming majority experience. Number one, you suffer a drop in income. How much varies from state to state and a variety of other considerations, but you lose your income. Number two, you use up whatever savings you may have accumulated. Most workers in this country don't accumulate any, but if you did have some, now you were going to deplete them for however long you needed. If you didn't have savings, you were going to lean on your relatives, your spouse, your children, your cousins, your uncles to help you. At what moment? At a moment when they and their economic circumstances were also stressed. But I'm not done. We have countless studies that indicate if you are either unemployed or you are frightened that you might become unemployed because you know what that will do to you. You won't be able to make the payments on your home. You won't be able to make the payments on your car. Your debt on your credit card will go through the roof, etc., etc. Here's what we know. Alcoholism goes up. Spouse divorce goes up. Spouse abuse goes up. Child abuse goes up. Elderly abuse goes up. I mean, I could go on, but you get the picture. We have been, and I don't use this word lightly, traumatized. We need the response of a society that's going to take care of us, at least in some dramatic, demonstrable way, to reassure us that the shock we have just gone through, which will take time to play itself out, is offset by something. And we're not getting that. We're getting government as usual. The Democrats tilting a little more to making the system less harsh. The Republicans insisting that the universe must be harsh in the way that they want.